Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another series of the B-Zone on the 7 stages of life. And tonight, we are going to discuss the 6th stage of life. And if you've been following our video series, we've already covered 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and now the 6th, which will be the culmination of our talks up to the next one, which will be the 7th stage of life. And tonight in the studio, Frank Marrero, again, is with us. So good evening, Frank.
Glad to be here.
And so I think for the audience and for our own clarification, we are known as the clique
and clack
of just not even of Adi Da, because remember, this is not a sanctioned series. This is a B-Zone series.
In other words, we have to adamantly, again and again, and this is a good place to do so, talk about our non-qualification for talking about the higher and more sophisticated dimensions of spiritual practice. We have studied it in depth with Adi Da, and so that is our only qualification. He has given us, again and again, suspended us and brought us to and rendered us in these awarenesses and this understanding. So, but this is not my level of practice.
Exactly. And so a lot of this is what would be called today in popular philosophy or schools of traditional teaching is more of a study and also a presentation in more of an intellectual kind of a sense. But one of the things that what we need to address is that in today's world today, there's lots of teachers who practice what would be called, in traditional terms, a 6th stage or a very high Dharma teaching, whether it be Dzogchen or Advaita or some of the more psychologically oriented New Age methods that have this kind of 6th stage...
oriented to consciousness, oriented to observation and seeing all, and then they go into the traditions and they find sections or vast territories of talk like this, and they adapt it to their thinking mind and think that by thinking it, it's something like a realization.
So they'll take a whole rich tradition, let's say like Zen Buddhism.
Advaita is the other common one.
Right. And they'll take that whole tradition,
non-dual, sorry.
Non-dual, any non-dual teaching, whether high Sufism or even a lot of the high Hasidic, the Jewish tradition, the Kabbalah has a lot of this high Dharma to it, which is really all about one. There's only one. There's just God. There's no other. All else is unreal. Just be in a witness position. You are that kind of Dharma. That's kind of a presumption of mind. It's a subjective presumption. But we're not discarding all of that. That's a very rich tradition in the history of spiritual literature and spiritual traditions. So all of this has a certain kind of precedent. The only thing that we're addressing now, and what Adi Da addresses, is that in his revelation, it is a completed picture, if you will, of the full understanding of the 7 stages of life. And this is the ultimate 6th stage point of view that we're trying to discuss tonight as it approaches.
And in 3 ways. One is the popularization. Then there's what could be called the true 6th stage tradition of the great sages and magnificent spiritual rishis and realizers in human history. That's another section. And then there's the section of the 6th stage of life as understood within the context of the 7th.
Right.
So there's popularization, which is masturbatory. There is the true 6th stage gyan, of the incomparable state. And then there's the understanding of that even within a larger embrace of the 7th stage full realization of
Right,
God.
and he makes reference to certain literature in that latter part of the three stages that you talked about as premonitory,
Right.
or meaning that it's leaning into, or it's pointing to, but it's not quite
Full.
in the completed sense.
That's right.
And so there's no disregard for that
No, God,
at all.
no. Should we be so lucky?
Right. So
We're luckier, actually.
So let's talk about some of the liabilities of what we might call the talking school of the mind dharma, or the philosophical presumptions, or the subjective presumptions, or basically the presumption of ego, right? Because it's a rather simplistic view of ego. It's more of a picture, just ego is mine.
And the waking state.
In the waking
state. And the conceit of mentality and the conceit of the waking state acquires these bits of wisdom, and since they can put them on, oh, this shirt fits me, it must be true, as if they could try it on and then assume the realization, just because it sounds right. For instance, the kind of just witness everything. Yeah, just whatever you're doing, just witness it. Just get in touch with the fact that no matter what arises, you can be the witness of it. Well, it may be that you are given up to an intuition of what could be called consciousness only, or it could be that it's the masturbating the actual liability of the conceit of the waking mind, thinking about it and just being refined. What's the difference? How do you know?
Right, and that gives you the presumption that there's really nothing to do. There's no need for any kind of teacher. There's no need to do anything. You're always in the eternal now. There's only this moment. That's all there is, and you're it. And so there's nothing to do other than just basically
observe and accept that.
Observe and enjoy your life, and have a Miller and go to the ball game.
But witnessing it all.
Always witnessing it and be free of it, which is really kind of elementary, and that is a popular kind of conception. But in the real true traditions of the Zen Buddhists and the high Dharma schools, there is the presumption in the sixth stage of life. It's not this, not this, not this, not this. Because everything that arises in consciousness is not it's always in the objected sense of realization. So,
what do you mean?
Well, it's the only way to speak about in the traditions of a sixth stage orientation is not this, not this, not this. Right. So it's not the body, it's not the mind, it's not the feelings, it's not the thoughts, it's not the world.
It's not spiritual experience.
It's not spiritual experience. It's just not this. So really, the only way in which the philosophical schools have presented, if you will, in any way, form or fashion, a sixth stage orientation would be not this, not this, not this. Right. So there's that.
Via negation, aphoresis in the Greek tradition.
Right.
Right. And the great sage Shankara, he neti, not this, not this. And that is because the truth is formless.
Right.
Consciousness does not have a place. And so anytime we assign it a place or a dimension, no, it's not.
Right. Because the sixth stage does represent a realization. There is an understanding. There is an absorption in consciousness. So it's not just a talking school. There is a yoga associated with it. And in traditions, they practice that yoga. So there is a sadhana in the traditions. So we're moving away from what would be called the popular talking school now into the traditions of what it is in the yoga sense of what a sixth stage tradition is. And it does have a certain kind of sign, if you will, that doesn't show itself in just the talking way. There's a sign of sixth stage would be
profound equanimity.
Profound equanimity, which would be called, there's a certain samadhi that's in the traditions that's associated with the sixth stage, not nirva kalpa. It would be jnana samadhi.
Jnana samadhi, yes.
And so that would be kind of a formless, because now we've moved, as you followed our introduction into the sixth stage, we've moved beyond the physical, okay, and into
beyond the mental,
beyond the subtle,
and beyond the subtle, and now we're arriving at the causal.
The causal. And this is truly where Adi Da speaks about that this is where the spiritual has been transcended.
Mm-hmm. So, remember last session we were talking about the fifth stage, which is all about spiritual experience and spiritual attainment, spiritual
Up into the Sahasra.
The great fireworks of the esoteric anatomy. Now, our submission to the life current is not in the context of the body-mind. Our submission to the life current is transcendental.
Right.
And so we're giving ourselves up in profound equanimity.
Well, truly, we don't give ourselves, we dissolve in the current. Right. And so in the fact the ego, the witness, if you will, dissolve. There is only one. I mean, that's what the basic principle here is. And that's where the elementary people will take that one and just go off with that. But that one means one. It means not just this, right? And not just mine. There is just one. And then in that sense of ego, dissolves. So in that bliss, there has got to be a sign that this represents a certain samadhi, that you're absorbed in the life current. And so in the fifth stage, you're limited to the framework of the physical body. In the physiology, and spiritual life is all about purifying the physical. And so once you get to the sixth stage, you are now just in the current, which is transcendental, transcends the body, transcends the mind. And you are now, the root of mind is now absorbed in attention, the bindu, or the maha bindu. So mind now is not just what you and I associate with mind, and thinking and visions and audition too. Because now you're in a causal dimension, which is transcendental, and the bindu point we're speaking about is the root of attention. And this is where the sixth stage point goes from above to the sahasra and falls down. It comes down in what Adi Da speaks about in the three hearts.
Let's put that on hold for a while, as well as the source of attention, because these are big domains. And I wanted to finish up with also this requirements. This requirements and also what it is not relative to the popularization. I'm thinking of a quote by Adi Da where he's talking about what spiritual practice is not, and he says those who seem to practice the way, full of self-denial, meditation, and good acts, but who do not realize the radiant transcendental consciousness in every moment, have only emptied themselves. But those who constantly speak of the radiant transcendental consciousness, indulging their minds in concepts of emptiness, transparency, and pure space, but who do not practice love communion with the living and divine reality in every moment, are only full of themselves. And so here is a qualification. If this emptiness and transparency and pure space talk is not interwoven, tied with love communion, devotion, true devotion, a life of love, then it's bullshit. So this life of love, this releasing through purificatory life, sadhana, so that your energy and attention is free, and you're active as love, then I might listen to your talk about emptiness, transparency, and pure space. Otherwise, you're full of yourself. And so this point can't be made too strongly in our popular conceited time.
But again, in the true realization of sixth stage sages, and those who don't even have a name of saint, sage, or yogi, or whatever, are absorbed in the transcendental bliss of samadhi. So they've negated the world. the world in the sixth stage realization is that the world is not real.
That's right.
What Frank is referring to in Adi Da's revelation is that in the sixth and in the premonitory seventh stage kind of thing, is that the world is real, but it's not necessary. And there's a big distinction there. So in terms of just what we're speaking about, the sixth stage is characterized as really absorption in bliss, absorption in samadhi, and to the negation of the world. The world is not real. It's
because
an
it's
illusion.
not nutty.
Right.
Not this, not this, not this, not this, not this. Only consciousness.
Right, because you're absorbed in truth. There is truth. There is realization. You're in a God state. You're in a transcendental state. And so this is all as the play of Maya, as the play of illusion, is not real. It is reflection. It is, as there's a Zen poem that I always liked, is about the geese flying over the lake do not intend to cast their reflection because the water has no mind to absorb their image. And so the illusion in what Adi Da points to as that we are in a hallucinatory state. The mind is only projecting out, as Maharshi said. The world is nothing but an image of reflected out what you think as the screen, but it is really the mind. And this is nothing but an illusionary play. So a sixth stage person sees the illusion, sees it, but is absorbed in the bliss of it, and therefore all of this is not real.
Yeah, and